In this video, we want to advance a bit in the study of variation. So this time around, we'll be looking at inverse variation. So what we want to talk about is a situation where one thing is increasing, the other one will be decreasing. Or this one is decreasing, the other one will be increasing. So you're looking at a situation where you say maybe A, if you have A to be increasing, then B will be decreasing. So we have that kind of relationship. Or you have B to be increasing, then A will be decreasing. So that's the kind of variation we are looking at. So now we want to look at this scenario that illustrates what we are saying practically. Supposing you have a farmland and you want people to cultivate the farmland for you, you will agree with me that if you have lesser people in that farmland, it will take a longer time to do the cultivation. But if you have much people doing the cultivation, it will take a lesser time to do the cultivation. So this one is a kind of inverse variation. So what we are saying in effect is this. Supposing you have one person to do the cultivation, you find out that it will take that person a longer day to do that. Maybe it will take that person about 20 days to do the cultivation. But if you increase the number of the people in the farmland maybe by 2, you will agree with me that it will lessen the number of days to do the cultivation. This time around, it might take the person 10 days. Then if you decide to increase it more, you double it now. You're now bringing in 4 people. It will simply take the person maybe 5 days to finish the cultivation. So you see now that if you use n to represent the number of people, you see that as the number of people is increasing, you're increasing the number of people, then the number of days to do the cultivation will be coming down. So this is an inverse variation. Then something has to be constant for that kind of variation to work. What will be constant? The number of people times the days it will take them to do the job will be constant. So this will be constant. What do I mean? If you look at this now, if you come over here, you look at here. Here you have the number of people here is 1 times the number of days, which is 20. So this one gives us 20. If you come to the second column, where you have the number of people to be 2, then the number of days to be 10. So if you have 2 times 10, this gives you 20. If you come to the third column here, the number of people there is 4. Then it will take them how many days? 5 days. So if you look at the product, 4 times 5, this gives you 20. So you see that something must be constant. So in variation, there will always be a constant. So having illustrated that now, how do we represent this mathematically? So that's what we'll be looking at now. So if you allow n, I'm using n to be the number of people you put in the farmland. So this one will have an inverse variation. How do you represent inverse variation? Inverse, generally. Remember that if you have 2, what is the inverse of 2? It is 1 over 2. If you have 5, what is the inverse of 5? It is 1 over 5. Inverse is because like 2 over 1. Remember that 2 is the same thing as 2 over 1. So inverse, you rotate it. 5 is the same thing as 5 over 1. You rotate it. If you have A is the same thing as A is the same thing as A over 1. If you look at the inverse becomes 1 over A. Okay. So when we are talking about inverse, we use 1 as the numerator. So you create a fraction which we have 1 as the numerator. So the inverse variation now becomes 1. Then what does it vary inversely with? The days taking to do the cultivation. So we have this to be n. So this one says what it reads that n varies inversely with the number of days. That is, the number of people in the farmland varies inversely with the number of days. So now, to write this properly, to create the formula, you have that n is equals to k times 1 over 2. So there must be a constant, where k now is a constant. So, and that's what we mean. Remember that you can write this thing as the same thing as k over d. That is k times 1. So that n becomes k over d. So when you want to remove the variation, so this one always means variation. So if you have 1 over something, it means inverse variation. But if it is direct, you don't need to have 1 over. You simply have that in there. So in subsequent video now, we'll look at more appropriate example.